Good afternoon, good afternoon. Welcome to the latest edition of Chopping It Up with Ramel. I'm glad you could be with me at this time. Wow, do we have a lot to talk about? I didn't get a chance to speak with you all last week, so I got some catching up, especially after that tremendous game of the LSU and Clemson. But I'm going to set it off in the NFL. And I thought that the NFL this weekend had a couple of games that at the beginning of the season, I would not have expected or imagined this four teams to be in the conference finals. You know, I had Kansas City, and of those who've been following me, I had Kansas City playing Philly in the Super Bowl. I thought it was going to be the Andy Reid Bowl game. So having Kansas City there, I was half right. Midway through the season, I thought that it was going to be the repeat bowl, which was Baltimore against San Francisco. And at that time, I said the loser of that game will win the Super Bowl. Well, to my surprise, San Francisco is there. Kansas City is there as I expected. But I got to tell you, I got to give kudos to San Francisco. What San Francisco has done this year has just been amazing. I had no idea that we would be really talking about San Francisco in the Super Bowl at this point. No time in this before the season started. I remember a good friend of mine, we was talking about it. He said that was his team. He told me to watch out for him, and I looked at him like he was crazy. I really did. I didn't have any confidence in Garoppolo. I didn't realize what San Francisco was building. I mean, this is a team that had the number 2 pick in the draft just a year ago when they drafted Nicky Bosa. So I had no idea that they were really going to go from worse to literally first in the conference. And what we're seeing is not a team going from worse to first. I mean, well, Arizona was worse. So it was Arizona, San Francisco. But this is a team that perhaps went from worst to first. What a tremendous season that the 49ers has had. And they capped it off with a beautiful game plan against the Green Bay Packers. Yes, a beautiful game plan. If you don't know who he is, let me introduce you to him. His name is Raheem Mostert. What he did was just sensational. 29 carries, 220 yards. Let me rewind that. 29 carries, 220 yards, 7.6 per carry, 4 touchdowns. Listen, the running game and the game plan was so effective against Green Bay this past weekend that Garoppolo, who is becoming the new Phil Simms, the new game manager, threw for only 8 passes. He was 6 for 8 on 77 yards. Not once did they feel the need that they had to air it out with this guy. The running game went accordingly. You know, if there's an Achilles heel on Green Bay, they can't stop the run. My team, the Eagles, went into Green Bay, banged up, pulled out a win. Why? Because they ran the ball on them. And I guess Mike Shanahan and company must have saw that, knew something, got their hand tipped off, and they decided to take the blueprint and run with it. Because they ran the ball literally down their throat. And although Coleman got hurt, it appears that he's got a dislocated shoulder. There may be indications he might be back in 2 weeks, but they ran it without him. Without him being there. So what I'm saying to you is San Francisco, they are a formidable opponent, and I don't think they're going away for the future. Their defense is strong. They got a quarterback on the back end and Richard Sherman that brings veteran leadership. He still got his game. They got a bunch of number 1 picks up on that front line and that linebacker core. Their front 7 is full of first-round picks. And they're beginning to pan off. Right now, they're paying dividends. What I'm seeing from San Francisco is just sensational. I did not see it. I owe the 49ers and my buddy Al Davis Aldi. I owe them all an apology in the beginning of the season because I didn't see this coming. But now that they're there, I'm not surprised because they had a sensational season and they play like they belong. You know, Aaron Rodgers, outside of Brady, is probably the next quarterback up that the NFL world admires and adores. And I just thought that, you know, the NFL world would have loved to see Aaron Rodgers possibly going up against Patrick Mahomes. You know, many think that Aaron Rodgers is the greatest quarterback to ever play. I think he's the most overrated quarterback simply because, not that he's not good or not great, it's just that I don't think he's what everybody say he is. You know, Eli Manning went to 2 Super Bowls. Can we get this guy to a second Super Bowl if he's that good? If Aaron Rodgers is that great, can we get him to a second Super Bowl? Can he get himself to a second Super Bowl? I think he's very overrated. But I think the NFL world would have loved to see an Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes matchup. But San Francisco had something to say about that. And to my guy Joe McDouzian, who said that he believes that Garoppolo is better than a game manager, I disagree. I don't think that Garoppolo can win you a game. I think he's out there in that mode of an Alex Smith, just don't lose the game. And that doesn't mean he's not a decent quarterback or a good quarterback. But they're not going to put the ball in his hands or the game in his hand to go win the game. And if they do that against Kansas City, who was very impressive against a hot Tennessee Titans team, if they put the game plan in the hands, if they put the game plans in the hands of Garoppolo against Kansas City, this one will be over early because he will not be able to match the offense of Patrick Mahomes. And again, San Francisco with a tremendous win, with a tremendous season, and they deserve to be there. To me, they were the best team in the NFC all season long. Now moving over to the AFC, Tennessee Titans was as hot as McDonald's French fry grease. I mean, they were hot. They came in there. Derrick Henry was looking like the running back that we saw in Alabama. He could not be stopped. The last game prior to the Kansas City game, 195 yards on the ground, 192 yards on the ground. The game before that, 185 yards on the ground. He nearly rushed for 400 yards in 2 games. Unbelievable. But he get up in Arrowhead, Kansas City front line shut that down. 19 carries, 69 yards. 69 yards. This is a guy that had 185 and 192. But Kansas City has something to say about that, and they shut that down. And Ryan Tannehill, who's similar to a game manager, maybe a little bit better than Garoppolo because of experience, but he's another one of those quarterbacks that can't just go out and win you a game, especially when you're playing against the youngster, Pat Mahomes. Pat Mahomes, 24 for 35 for 296 yards, 3 touchdowns in the air. And here's a stunner. He doesn't usually run the ball, but he had 56 yards on the ground and a 27-yard touchdown run. He was responsible for 4 of the touchdowns, just himself. You know, I'm not going to go and put my prediction on the Super Bowl yet. But at this point here, yeah, I'm leaning towards Kansas City. I just think they got too much offense. But that may change from now until next week before I give my Super Bowl prediction. Because right about now, I don't know if you want to bet against San Francisco. San Francisco was recently in the Super Bowl in 2012 with Colin Kaepernick. They lost to the Ravens in the Brother Bowl. 2 coaches going head-to-head. Defense prevailed. Kansas City hasn't been there in 50 years. 50 years. This is unfamiliar territory for them. Andy Reid, who led my team to 5 consecutive conference championship when he was at Eagles, knows a thing about offense and knows a thing about winning, and it is a very, 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 very good coach, possibly a great coach. But he just can't win the money, sink the money ball. Hey, we got a caller. Hold on. Welcome to Chopping It Up with Ramel. We got a call on the line. Who's calling in?
Yo, this is Jeremy, man, calling from Gwinnett County.
Jeremy calling from Gwinnett County. Is that out there in Georgia?
Oh, yeah, it's out here in Georgia, man, the best state in the South.
The best state in the South. Well, welcome to the show. I was just talking about recapping the conference championship game. What's on your mind?
Yo, I'm glad you brought that up, man. I got a question for you right now. I need your help with this.
Sure.
Do you think going into the future, this Super Bowl game is going to be big for Patrick Mahomes or Jimmy Garoppolo? Based off of, Jimmy coming under the wing of Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, and Patrick Mahomes, which pretty much, is right now in the talks as being one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game. So I need to know what's your take on that.
Well, you know what? Anytime you make it to the Super Bowl, it's always good for the resume and it's always big. One thing about the NFL, more than probably any other sport, I don't think really one man can run a show or operate a show for a lengthy period of time. You're going to need some help. But if I had to look into the crystal ball, I'm going to say this here is going to be big for Patrick Mahomes. I think it's going to propel him to the point where he's going to recognize that he is one of the greatest in the game right now and possibly have that chance. I don't think this is a one-and-done situation for Patrick Mahomes. I think we're going to see him in multiple Super Bowls. As far as Garoppolo go, I still reserve judgment on him as far as his talent level. I don't know if he's the quarterback that can will his team. He's going to require a team around him. And, he's in the right spot because, A, he's got a good head coach in Mike Shanahan. But more importantly, that defense doesn't look like it's going anywhere for the next 3 to 5 years. And if they can hold that defense together, and long as he doesn't lose games, he could get another run back at the Super Bowl. But to your question, I think it's more important and it's going to help Patrick Mahomes going further because everybody is anointing him as one of the all-time throwers at that position, and he needed to get to the Super Bowl. He needed to get to a win to at least knock off those pressures or those questions. So I'm going to go with Mahomes.
All right. So Patrick Mahomes. So let me ask you this: what real quick? What you think of the running game of the San Francisco 49ers and what they was able to do against that Packers defense?
Well, I had mentioned it not too long ago. I was saying how my Philadelphia Eagles went into Green Bay and ran on them. It looks like Green Bay has trouble with the run. I don't know who Raheem Mostert is. Everybody knows who he is now. For him to run for 220 yards on 29 carries and get 4 touchdowns, Green Bay was exposed. But we had another hot running back in Derrick Henry out of Tennessee who rushed for nearly 400 yards in the last 2 games prior to the Kansas City game, and they shut him down to 69 yards. So I don't know if we're going to see that same kind of effectiveness against Kansas City because it looks like Kansas City's defense is clicking right now. But if San Francisco is going to have any success against Kansas City, they're going to have to resemble that running game that destroyed Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers this past weekend.
All right. So to me, it sounds like you got Kansas City taking the whole game.
I'm leaning towards that, but I'm going to reserve my prediction until next week. But yes, I am leaning towards that.
All right, so I'm gonna be tuned in next week, man. I gotta hear what the score is gonna be, because if you ask me, I like what San Fran got going on with Mike Shanahan, Jimmy Garoppolo. I feel like he's making a statement as one of the up and coming quarterbacks of the league. But there's a lot of hype behind the Kansas City Chiefs. Hopefully that won't be the downfall. With them going into the Super Bowl in the next 2 weeks.
All right, well. I tell you what, Jeremy, I appreciate you being the first time calling and calling up, and I look forward to you calling in next week.
All right, man. Catch you later, man.
Thanks. That was Jeremy out of Gwinnett County, Georgia, first-time caller. And he's saying, he asked a couple of good questions. Who does this Super Bowl is more important to of the quarterbacks? And he also seemed like he might be leaning towards San Francisco. Great call. But we're going to move on from that. And we're going to talk a little bit, because I didn't get a chance to talk about LSU and the Clemson game. What a game that was. Joe Burrows right now, if I'm the Cincinnati Bengals, I'm already negotiating the contract. What that quarterback did against the Clemson defense was just tremendous. I mean, he put up numbers for the ages. I mean, he threw for 463 yards and had 5 touchdowns. 5 touchdowns. Just unbelievable what he did. He just kept coming and kept coming and kept coming and kept coming and kept coming. Outstanding performance by that young man. He upstaged Tom Brady light and Trevor Lawrence. So what a tremendous a game for him. And it's only fitting. He was the Heisman Trophy winner. LSU, by far, I think, was the best team this year in college. And I'm going to tell you why. Not that it's no knock on Clemson or anything like that. For years you hear about the SEC being one of the toughest divisions in football. Well, the toughest division in college football. And it showed. I mean, they had to get past Florida. They had to get past Auburn, Alabama, Georgia, and then Clemson. I mean, that's just phenomenal. Excellent road to the finals. Excellent road to victory, to championship. You can't ask for anything better. Kudos to the LSU program. Looks like Randy Moss's son is going to go pro. Big, strong tight end with great hands. Looks like he's going to be gobbled up at least by the first, second round. And if there was only one knock on an LSU victory, it had to be that Odell Beckham just stealing all the attention, all the limelight for these youngsters that played very well, that deserved a lot of credit. But no, he's out there carrying on, giving out money on the field, slapping security officers on the butt in the locker room, just doing too much. Let these youngsters have this moment. For some of these guys, they may never see this opportunity again. This is their time. You had your chance when you was there. Just step aside, Odell. Let the youngsters enjoy. It's okay to be there, congratulate them, but don't upstage them. And that goes for any other future alumni, whether it's college basketball or college football. If your college team is doing well and they're in a situation where they're going to take on a chip and smell victory or receive victory, please let them have their moment. It's only right. They worked hard for this. They really did. They worked hard. They don't need to be upstaged by a former collegiate athlete student. Moving right along to the NBA. I have to start off by, did Boston make a statement last night against the Lakers? What I saw last night, and I didn't get a chance to see it all, you had a team in the Boston Celtics that was looking for this moment. Maybe they were looking ahead, knowing that this day was coming. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day. First of all, we can't say enough about the man. In my eyes, he's probably a top 3, top 2 greatest man to ever walk on this earth. What he meant and stood for is priceless. It's nearly unmatchable. In fact, I don't know if anybody has come along after him and matched his impact. We need more Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s. And what the NBA does with TNT, they do a great job every year making Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day a basketball day. And they put on 3 to 4 games every year. And it didn't disappoint. Toronto and the Hawks was a great game. if you're a Boston fan, you couldn't be happier. What you seen out of the Boston Celtics last night, losers 6 of the last 8, excuse me, you saw a team that had the calendar circle. You had a team that had the calendar circle for this day. Because what they did to the Lakers, they destroyed them. They destroyed them. They destroyed them. 139 to 107, a 32-point rout. The game wasn't close. They had been dominating early on. I'm not sure what was on the minds of the Laker team. I know Anthony Davis was making his return. I read a report, and maybe I understand this. LeBron went to attend a game that his son had earlier today, somewhere in the Massachusetts area. But when it came down to game time, looks like only one team showed up there. And that was the Boston Celtics. What the Boston Celtics did last night was just destroy them. And I tell you what, I've seen this throughout the season. Kemba, Jalen, and Tatum, 20-plus points or more. I'm seeing this more frequently. I tell you, Boston has a lot of talent. They play as a team. They have scorers. They have offensive players. They got guys with clutch genes over there. They play good team defense. I'm sure they're looking to better their team, make a move. I wouldn't sleep on Boston. I would not sleep on Boston at all. I would not sleep on Boston. We could look up and Boston could be in the finals. I doubt it. I think Milwaukee is just having that kind of a year, somewhat like LSU. They're not taking on any prisoners. They just running through everybody. But don't sleep on Boston. Boston's a quality team with quality players. And as far as the Lakers go, you know, no matter how good you are, how bad you are, or how well you're playing, or how well you're not playing, I think you get a game like this every year. Every team gets a game like this every year where what can go wrong just goes wrong. You know, this doesn't define the Lakers. This doesn't mean that the Lakers can't win a championship. It doesn't mean that the Lakers is a bad team or anything like that. Hey, they lost by 32 points. They didn't have it. The Celtics had it. It was a road game. They weren't prepared. Anthony Davis, first game back. Hey, it may happen. Now, if they go to the Garden tomorrow night, Wednesday, and then the next day to the Barclay across the bridge and lose both games, then you have some concerns. Then you have some concerns. But what Boston did to the Lakers was very impressive last night. Very impressive. And it should not be overlooked. Boston is a good team that could make their way to the finals if people are not paying attention to them. If teams are not paying attention to them. Oh, we got a caller. Give me a second. Good afternoon. Got a caller on the line. Welcome to Chopping It Up with Ramel. Who's on the line?
Hey, what's up, Troy? This is Malcolm.
Malcolm, where you from, Malcolm?
Duluth.
Duluth, out there in Georgia.
Yeah.
Okay, first time caller. What's on your mind?
I heard you was talking about the conference championship and the LSU and Clemson game and stuff like that.
Yeah, I was talking about that. I was saying how Joe Burrows, if I'm the Cincinnati Bengals, since I have the number 1 pick, I start negotiations right now.
You said what now?
I would start negotiations with him right now if I was the Cincinnati Bengals. They got the number 1 pick in the draft. They're in need of a quarterback. And what Joe Burrows displayed in that game, throwing for 83 yards, is just phenomenal.
Yeah, that is phenomenal. Joe Burrow, I feel like Joe Burrow is probably going to be the next great NFL quarterback. It's something about him. He know how to win. And he came from the bottom because he had to transfer from Ohio State to LSU. He had to win the job at LSU.
Yeah.
And a team like Cincinnati, that type of environment, losing and stuff like that, I feel like that he's the type of player, he's the type of quarterback that can come in and he can handle that type of situation. And he can probably turn that
programming
that franchise around.
You know, it's funny, and it sounds like you agree with me a little bit. I'm going to ask you, Malcolm. Do you think he just possessed that it factor?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
It's something about him. I mean, it's a lot of guys that possess that it factor, though. That's why it's kind of hard to say that, he's going to come in, he's going to be the best quarterback in the league, because we got so many quarterbacks coming into the league and that's in the league now that's young. You know, Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson, Patrick Mahomes, the dude in New York, what's his name? Matt Jones.
Daniel Jones.
Yeah,
Sam
Daniel
Darnold.
Jones. You got Tua Tagovailoa finna come in. You got Joe Burrow. You got the boy out of Oregon finna come in. Then next year you got the boy out of Clemson finna come in.
Right.
It's gonna be hard to say. I do feel like he's a winning quarterback.
Okay.
He will win. I do feel like he's a better quarterback than Andy Dalton. He'll win more. I feel like he'll win more games than Andy Dalton. He has that. He know how to win in clutch moments. You know what I'm saying? Because he's been on the championship stage. Andy Dalton went to TCU, ain't never won nothing in his life.
Okay.
Since high school, probably. And he don't know how to do that. But somebody like Joe Burrow, he shine on those stages. So yeah, he'll be able to at least win some playoff games, maybe even take him to a Super Bowl.
And here's how I look at it, and I appreciate the call. And I tell you what, Malcolm, sound like you got some great insight on a college game. But I'll tell you this: when you got a young quarterback like that, and I'm gonna look at this year's draft with Kyler Murray being the number 1 pick in Arizona. You know, it helps a lot when you go into a team and in the huddle, you got Larry Fitzgerald in that huddle. And it will help Joe Burrows when he looks into that huddle, he got A.J. Green over there. Now, I know A.J. Green is not on the level of Fitzgerald, but he is a capable wide receiver. And when he is healthy, he's one of the top 10 wide receivers in the game, if not top 7, top 5. But I tell you, to have that veteran presence with him in that huddle, if they can somehow put a running back together and work that offensive line, the future will be bright for Cincinnati. And even if they have to take the Troy Aikman route, because when Troy Aikman came to Dallas, and I'm not sure how far you go back, they were 1-15 in their first year, and they just started building slowly but surely, and then they won 3 championships in 4 years. So I see what you're saying, and I do believe that Joe Burrows has that it factor. Anything else before we go?
Not really, no.
Well, I'll tell you what, Malcolm, it was a great call. Glad to hear from you, and I hope this is not the last time you call in. I do the show weekly, and please, tune in. Thanks for the call.
All right, I will.
All right, peace and blessings.
All right, you too.
That was Malcolm from Duluth out here in Georgia. First-time caller, and you can tell he's very insightful when it comes down to the college game. And he's very high on Joe Burrows, and it looks like if I let him stay on the phone, he would have just kept going on because he knows the game, he knows the college game, and he's got respect for these upcoming quarterbacks that's coming into the league. So, I think that Joe Burrows does possess that it factor, and I think that Cincinnati, again, I can't stress it enough, they should be calling his agent right now and start negotiation because they're not trading the pick, and you're not taking anybody else. I mean, in another draft, or if he wasn't in the draft, eligible for the draft, you take Chase Young out of Ohio State, the defensive end. Yeah, absolutely. But in this case here, it's a no-brainer for the Bengals to go ahead and take Joe Burrows with the number 1 pick and have that starting quarterback for the next 10 to 15 years. It's just a no-brainer right there. But as I was saying, with the Boston Celtics, beating up on the Lakers last night. But I'm going to move along because I got a question for you all. Trae Young done it again. I mean, I can't tell you how many 40-point games and 10-plus assists this guy has had for his career in a short 2-year career. But the Atlanta Hawks seem like they've regressed from last year, and partly because of maybe the 25-game suspension of John Collins. But for those who follow basketball like I follow basketball, do you believe, let me ask you this, is Trae Young's career in Atlanta headed towards an Allen Iverson career in Philly? Or is it heading towards a career like Steph Curry's in Golden State? Because he's got similarities to both of them. I mean, he can shoot the ball from anywhere on the court like Steph Curry. He's the smallest guy on the court like Allen Iverson, and yet can get any shot that he wants at any time, whether it's outside the paint or inside the paint. And oh, by the way, just like the both of them, he can dish it off too. So is Trae Young's career headed towards Iverson's career in Philly, or is it headed towards Golden State? The one good thing about it, regardless of which way it's going, it may lead to a championship appearance because Allen Iverson did go to the finals with Philly to be upset against the Lakers, and we know the story with Steph Curry. 5 consecutive championship trips, 3-2 in the process. So we know the story on that. But this is pressure on the management group in Atlanta. Yeah, you got a phenomenal talent. Listen, I know Luka Doncic is in the conversation for MVP talks. He's the starting point guard in the West. But Trae Young's the starting point guard in the East in the All-Star game as well. Doncic is in the playoffs as we speak. That's because maybe he's in a better situation right now. But at the end of the day, Trae Young is phenomenal. And if the Atlanta management team can get it together and build around this young man, perhaps he can reach the finals just like Iverson and just like Curry. But it's going to take the management team to put this team together. There's a lot of young pieces on there. You know, when I look at Atlanta, they're somewhat like New York. Nice places to live, party, hang out, visit, whatever the case, those cities, Atlanta and New York. But they have trouble attracting free agents. I believe both teams need to make a move for a star that's under contract. Not just anyone. This doesn't mean Atlanta or New York go out there and trade for Kevin Love. I don't think that's the answer. But if you want Trae Young to have an opportunity to experience some of the things that Iverson or Curry experienced, you got to make some moves. And when I heard that Atlanta was in the mix for Andre Drummond, I was a little surprised by that, but I understand it. Go make the move. A pick and roll with Trae Young and Drummond is going to be tremendous. Not only that, Drummond is a willing passer. When that double team comes, it makes the shots easier for Cam Reddish and Hunter. Otherwise, we don't know what Trae Young's career is going to be. If you don't build around him, and soon, after 7 years, he might bolt Atlanta area. And Trae Young is going to be the biggest star in Atlanta since Dominique Wilkins. And it's already showing. I mean, he got jersey sales around the country. When Atlanta's on the road, they're wearing his jersey. The last time you seen that is when Dominique Wilkins was in Atlanta uniform. So my question to you all is Trae Young's career in Atlanta, is it going to resemble Iverson in Philly, where he got to do everything? Or will it resemble Curry's in Golden State, where they're going to build around him and see to him getting the talent that he needs so he don't have to be a one-man show? His game resembles both of them. Moving right along. Is Kyrie Irving hurt in Brooklyn? Is he hurt in Brooklyn? Last night, Brooklyn played a tough game, lost to Philly. He didn't play. Is Kyrie hurt in Brooklyn being in and out of the lineup with what he's saying When he made that comment, it's glaring. We're missing pieces. We need something else to go along with myself, KD, DJ, GT, LeVert, and Spence. Newsflash, Kyrie, you was that piece. You and Kevin Durant. You was that piece. Not that you come there and we got to get some more. You sound like LeBron. Point fingers. Always need more. Is that what you learned from playing with him? This team was a 6-spot team last year in the playoffs. They came in 6th in the East. They go out and sign you, DeAndre Jordan, and Kevin Durant. All they lose is Rondé Hollis-Jefferson and D'Angelo Russell. They're in the 8th spot now because of you. You're supposed to bring them up. You're supposed to improve their team. Kyrie, this is on you. You're the piece that's supposed to elevate this team. Not you get there and add more pieces. Well, yeah, just go get Dr. J. He formerly played with the Nets. Go get Kenyon Martin. See if Jason Kidd is available. What all you want? You're the missing piece. Show some leadership. Yeah, you guys got to pass because Durant won't be there the next year. But when I look at you replacing Russell, yeah, it should be better. Yeah, it should be better. So, yes, to the question, is Kyrie hurting Brooklyn? Absolutely. For my Knicks that are starving for a star or two, and we would have took on Kyrie and Kevin Durant just like Brooklyn and waited on Kevin Durant, I think we may have dodged a bullet. Because if Kyrie can't handle the pressures of the cameras in Brooklyn at the Barclays Center, he would not be able to deal with it across the bridge at Madison Square Garden on 34th Street. Because those cameras are double and triple the cameras that you receive at Barclays. And that is why I believe he and Durant did not come to New York, because with Kevin Durant on the shelf for a season, I don't think Kyrie wanted to face those cameras alone. I don't think so. So yes, Kyrie is hurting Brooklyn, and the Knicks may have dodged a bullet. Do the Lakers need to make a move? Do the Los Angeles Lakers need to make a move? Let's throw out yesterday's game, last night's game. Let's just throw that out. Because I think every team has one per season. Let's just throw that out. I believe the Lakers need a move. I think the Lakers, I've been saying it all along, they need another playmaker. They need someone that when LeBron goes to the bench, that he can create for himself and others. Rondo is not that guy anymore. Quinn Cook is not that guy. Caruso is only good in a good game, but he's not good in a bad game. So he's not that guy. There's rumblings that the Lakers may trade Kuzma. I'm not in agreement with that. But who the Lakers need to try to acquire? And in this order, there's 3 players. You can get one of them, but you should acquire them in order. You should try to trade for Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose right now for the last season and a half has pretty much been healthy and injury-free. And he's been balling. He was balling in Minnesota, and he's balling in Detroit. And Detroit is not going anywhere anytime soon, although Brooklyn is keeping it interesting for Detroit in that playoff race for 8th, as they're only 3 games ahead of them. But I do think that Detroit are going to be sellers at the deadline, and I think Derrick Rose can be had. From the Lakers, I'm trying to get Derrick Rose. If they're asking for too much and you don't want to meet their demands, then you got to go to the second option. I've been saying it all along. Jamal Crawford. Jamal Crawford. You know, we look at Carmelo Anthony. He was away from the game for a year. He comes back. Maybe the situation is right for him in Portland, but he's balling. And if Portland does make this playoffs, it's going to be because of the acquisition of Carmelo Anthony. Oh, by the way, Dame put up 61 last night. But with that said, Jamal Crawford, I think he could come in and provide that lift that the Lakers need, coming from the bench, just giving buckets. Just giving buckets. He can offset what Lou Williams can do for the Clippers. And then there's Darren Collison. That would be my third choice. Now, what I remember of Darren Collison, he's a solid point guard. A great backup point guard. He needs to be guarded, could hit an open shot, and really can run an offense. Not a bad player at all. I was a little surprised to see that he announced his retirement at the end of last season. He stated it for religious purposes. He wanted to spend more time with his faith, and I respect that. But through the rumor mills, it says that he wants to return to the game. He could be helpful. I don't know how much he can really bring to the table. Because will he be any better than Rondo? Will he be any better than Cook? I'm not sure how much he can bring to the table. But he's worth a try. The good thing about him, it won't cost you much, and you won't have to give up anything. So if D Rose is not available for you, and if Jamal Crawford is not an option for you, I can understand going after Darren Collison. I just don't see where he makes that much of a difference. And lastly, before I go, what big names do you think will be traded in the offseason? I mean, not in the offseason, before the deadline, February 8th. What big names? Will Kevin Love be on the move? Will Andre Drummond be on the move? Will the San Antonio Spurs wave the flag and see that Memphis is for real, Portland is going to take it, maybe Zion comes back, and the Pelicans make their way to the 8th spot? Do they start to trade the LaMarcus Aldridge of the world and the DeMar DeRozan? What big star does the Lakers, who's been rumored to trade Kuzma? Does the Knicks trade Marcus Morris, who, say what you want about the Knicks. Marcus Morris is a valuable asset to the Knicks in the sense of maybe you can get a young player or you can get a first-round pick. And Marcus Morris is a baller, y'all. I mean, I never really watched him up close to see what he's capable of doing. Now, he's not in the point of his career where you can build around him. But on a team that has aspirations of going to the championship, whether he's a starter for you or a six-man, this guy's he's gonna be helpful for you. He brings defense. He has a nice three-point shot. He has good offense. He's a team player. He's not a selfish player. He's very unselfish. And he falls right in line with what it is that you're looking to do. But what big names is going to be traded? I'll tell you who I would trade. It's a very unpopular trade. But if I'm Brooklyn, I'm trading Kyrie Irving. I'm trading Kyrie Irving to the Minnesota Timberwolves. They're looking for a point guard. And I'll take whatever I can get back. Whether it's Wiggins, whether it's Covington, I would trade Kyrie Irving. That's right. Because I think he is a hindrance to the Brooklyn Nets He's disrupting everything that they have established, and he's not making them better. And at times, he's making the players uncomfortable. And I know he's tied with Kevin Durant, which makes that decision tough because you want to get a chance to see both of them on the court. But you know what? I would trade Kyrie Irving now while I can get value for him, because if you feel you have to trade him later, you're only going to get less value for him. I would trade him now, and if Kevin Durant is not happy, I'll trade him in the offseason. But Kyrie Irving right now, that's who, if I was a GM right now of any team, that's the first person I'm trading. If I was the GM of Brooklyn, let me put it that way. If I was the GM of Brooklyn, I'm trading Kyrie Irving. And I know Minnesota is looking for a point guard. I would trade him to Minnesota. And I would trade him for Andrew Wiggins, rather. But what big name is going to be traded this deadline? Will Miami go out there and break up their backcourt to get Drew Holiday, which I think is a mistake? If I'm Miami, if Andre Drummond is on the blocks, I'm looking for Andre Drummond. Report says that they're monitoring the LaMarcus Aldridge situation. Well, in the past, he never wanted to play center. But if he does go over there and want to play center, that's a good look for them. If I'm Portland, maybe I'm looking at Kevin Love. They just made a trade for Trevor Ariza. And then the debut of Zion is tomorrow night. I think it's important that he plays. Brandon Ingram is having a tremendous season. He's also a free agent at the end of the year. Is restricted. They need to know if these two can coexist before they dish out money. It's very important that Zion plays with Ingram. That game is going to be televised against the Spurs tomorrow night. It's very important that Zion gets on the court and play with Ingram. Because right now, Ingram is their MVP. Ingram is playing like an all-star. And the Pelicans need to find out if those two can coexist. Ingram is the kind of player that he can't play off the ball. He kind of got to create for himself a little bit. Will that interfere with Zion? Does Zion need the ball? Can he play off the ball? Is Zion just going to be someone you dish it to on the break? Is Zion someone that you dump it down into the post and let him operate and create? But at the end of the day, I'm glad to see him back on the court for his health reasons, but also for that franchise. They need to know if him and Ingram can play together, because Ingram is a restricted free agent at the end of the year, and he's been balling. He's been balling. You know, New Orleans is in a tight situation. You got Drew Holiday that maybe may not want to stick around for the rebuild. Teams are interested in him. But you got to find out, does Ball, Drew Holiday, Ingram, Zion, and possibly Derek Favors or Jackson Hayes, do they all fit? Where does J.J. Redick fit at? Is this where you trade J.J. Redick for assets? Maybe more draft picks? Does Boston trade Gordon Hayward possibly to get Andre Drummond? The deadline is about 2 weeks away. I'm sure there's going to be some movement. But until then, next week, I'll speak with you soon. Thanks for tuning in. To all the people that called up, to the friends and my family that's been chiming in, I appreciate you. Love you all. Peace and blessings. Chopping it up with Ramel. I see you next week. Peace.